This video is now in session, and a couple of days ago, Eric Greitens, the former governor of Missouri, said he was going to run to replace Roy Blunt, who is currently the incumbent senator in Missouri's Class 3, I believe. Is this Class 3? I don't know. Yeah, Class 3 Senate seat. So the backstory of this is that Roy Blunt, who is the Republican incumbent of the senator of Missouri, decided that he was not going to run for, I believe, a third term because of the dynamics that has shifted throughout the past several years and throughout the past decade in the U.S. Senate. So now there are a lot of people who are thinking about running in this race. Now, Missouri has gotten more and more Republican over the years. Ever since 1996, it has gotten more Republican and has went towards a Republican. Here we have Bush winning by 3.3, then Bush winning by 7.2. McCain dropped it down to 0.13, but Romney put it back up to 9.4 before it being safe at 18.6 and 15.4. So, as you can see, Missouri has gotten really Republican. That said, it is not completely, not entirely Republican. Just 2 years ago, or I guess technically 3 years now, 3 years ago, there used to be a Democratic senator from Missouri, and her name was Claire McCaskill. She won elections in Missouri as a Democrat until she lost in 2018 to, I believe, Josh Hawley, who is the other senator of Missouri. Now, for Roy Blunt's seat, there are currently 2 Republicans that have said that they are going to run, Rick Combs and then also Eric Greitens himself. And then there's an announcement pending from Eric Schmidt. So, why is Eric Greitens so bad for Republicans and so good for Democrats? Well, there's more to this backstory. Even though he was the governor of Missouri, he had to resign in 2018. And the reason why he resigned is that he apparently had an affair with another person who was not his wife. As you can see, his wife was Sheena Chestnut, but he was having an affair with someone else. But that wasn't the thing that predicated his resignation. Rather, the way he responded to it, then started his resignation and had courts looking into his case of privacy invasion against the person who was in the affair, and as well as blackmail, because apparently Greitens blackmailed the individual into making sure that the affair does not come out, and the person who was having the affair with Greitens said that Greitens told her, "You're not going to mention my name. Don't mention my name to anybody at all, because if you do, I'm going to take these pictures and I'm going to put them everywhere I can. They are going to be everywhere, and then everyone will know what a little whore you are." So, that was the thing that started to predicate his resignation, and as a result, by the end of his term as the 56th governor of Missouri, a lot of people started to dislike him. In the 2016 election that he was first elected to, he won by 51.1% of the vote. So it wasn't even a run out election like it was for Donald Trump in 2016. You can see that Greitens severely underperformed Trump. So did Roy Blunt, but Greitens as well. As you can see, Trump won by 18.6 percentage points. Here, it's literally only 6 percentage points, or 5.5 percentage points. That's a really huge deficit between the two, which shows that Greitens is not really a good candidate. And the same thing with Blunt. Blunt won by only around 2.8% against Jason Kander. Now, Jason Kander was one of the best Democrats that the Democratic Party could have gotten, so that's why it was so narrow. But even then, it was still a huge deficit in comparison to how much Trump won. And in comparison to 2020, it's still a huge deficit. Even though Trump lost some votes, he ultimately won by 15.4% in Missouri. So, if Eric Greitens runs and he wins the Republican primary, which he does have a good chance of doing, then this will become a competitive seat, and it will become unnecessarily competitive for the Republican Party. They do not need Missouri to be a competitive race, and they still have a chance to not make it competitive. Mitch McConnell is trying every single day to not get Eric Greitens to win the Republican primary, and instead to get someone like Eric Schmidt or Vic Combs win the primary. If either of these two win, then Republicans have a pretty much almost 100% chance at this point of winning Missouri. That said, if Eric Greitens, who is not really well liked by Missourians anymore, does indeed win the Republican primary, then that is going to be incredibly bad for Republicans, as it opens up for another competitive race for Democrats to potentially succeed in. Now, currently the Democratic primary has Lucas Kunce, Tim Shepard, and as well as Scott Sifton. Both of these individuals are the ones to pay attention to at this moment. There are others you could pay attention to. Maybe Jason Kander could try to run again. I doubt he would, but Democrats are most likely trying every day to get Jason Kander to run again, because unlike 2016, there is no incumbency factor for the Republican Party. And if Roy Blunt was not the incumbent Republican, I actually think that Jason Kander would have won that election against Roy Blunt. But it is what it is. So this is just what the eggs gave. That's not the right phrase. I was about to say that's what the eggs gave Jason, but that's definitely not the phrase. Anyway, so if we look at the hypothetical polling, we see that Roy Blunt and Eric Greitens are in this Remington poll, and Eric Greitens actually gets a huge chunk of the vote, 32% of the vote to Roy Blunt's 43%. Meanwhile, there are 25% who are either undecided or I guess neither. So there's still an opportunity for Greitens to lose. That said, the fact that Greitens has 32% against an incumbent Republican, Roy Blunt, and Roy Blunt doesn't even have a majority, he has a plurality, that is not good that showed that Roy Blunt was not doing good, but it also shows that Eric Greitens is doing good among Republicans. So there is still a chance. Now, this is a Remington research poll, and Remington is more conservative leaning kind of pollster. They're more biased. They're kind of like Data for Progress, except a Republican version of that. So they most likely were trying to create a narrative here that Roy Blunt was not moderate, or was not conservative enough, that he was too moderate. That said, the fact that Eric Greitens still has 32% of the vote, it's pretty surprising. So if we go to the general election now, there's no polling based on Eric Greitens. Besides here, actually, there is one. Okay. Yeah, so here it would give Eric Greitens 49%, and then Scott Sifton 41%, with 10% of people undecided. Now, this is obviously favoring Republicans. That said, I'd still rate this seat as more likely to go for Republicans than Democrats for if Eric Greitens wins the Republican primary. That said, it's going to be a lot narrower. I'd say it would be a lean in terms of a characterization, and we have to realize that, again, this is conducted by Remington Research, so it's obviously going to be more conservative, and they're also trying to push an agenda that Eric Greitens is the right candidate because he's more conservative than Roy Blunt or any of the other Republican candidates. Now, if we look at how that would impact the Senate map, that would not be good for Republicans, because it means that Republicans are going to have to defend a lot of seats when they should really be on the offensive. They want to get Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, and New Hampshire. That said, it's going to be hard for them to get all 4 seats when they also have to defend their own seats, including Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, potentially Ohio if Tim Ryan runs, which he probably will. And then now as well, and then Iowa if Chuck Grassley runs or doesn't run, and then now we have Missouri if Eric Greitens wins the Republican primary, then now they have to defend their own seats, and they would have to defend a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seats in comparison to Democrats defending 4 seats. Now, you could include Colorado in this, but even then, it's still more Republican seats to defend than Democrats, and that's ultimately the point in that Missouri should not be competitive. because it's becoming more Republican. That said, Republicans could very well screw this up if they vote Eric Greitens to become their nominee. Now, there are reasons to think that this would not happen, and that Republicans are not stupid or inept, because the same kind of thing occurred with Kansas's open Senate race in 2020, where it was Roger Marshall versus Chris Kobach, and Chris Kobach could have potentially won, and in the Republican primary, both of them were running to become the next senator of Kansas, and Chris Kobach was pretty close to actually winning the Republican primary, and had he won, then Barbara Boyer would have had a much better chance at winning, but Roger Marshall ultimately ended up. Now, if you don't know Chris Kobach, he's been implicated in scandals, and he was the reason why Democrats have a governor's seat in Kansas. That said, Republicans didn't make the same mistake twice, and I don't think that they will make the same mistake twice in Missouri. That said, if they do, then it sucks for them, because Democrats could now I wouldn't say that Democrats would be able to get Missouri Senate seat, but rather they would now have to cause Republicans to have to pour money into the Missouri Senate race. And money is ultimately, I guess, the predicator in it's the predicator in whether you're able to get your voice out and whether you're able to effectively attack against the other party. And the fact that Republicans have to divert money away from New Hampshire or Georgia over to Missouri, it's not a good sign for them in 2022. Now, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. This video is now adjourned, and I'll see you in the next one.